Solvitur Ambulando, The Adventures of Steve and Dixie by Stephen Breakstone. Snippets from my journal. Episode 36, Month 13, June 1987. June 24th, 1987, Wednesday, Howard, Colorado. I'm often asked about getting doggy boots for Dixie. Well, not really asked about it, but scorned about not having them. Boots! Get her boots, they say. You know what she needs, boy? Boots, 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 boots. Well, take my word for it. Easier said than done. Believe me, I've tried to make them, and I've tried to buy them. Making or finding a boot that will actually stay on a dog's foot, as well as one that will last more than a couple of miles, has proven elusive. A guy, Joe, who we played volleyball with last night at the Lazy J, told me about a saddle repair shop in the next town with a man who might have some good ideas. It's worth a shot. So we headed to Howard, Colorado, went to Howard's Saddle Shop, and talked to owner Howard Murray of Tulsa, Oklahoma. A big burly man in his 60s, Howard was a type of engineer. I told him what I was looking for, what the problem was, and of problems I've had with past attempts at such a project. He studied the problem. Obviously, a dog's front feet have no permanent heel. A human's foot always keeps its shape. A dog loses its heel with every step, not unlike my lap when I stand up. He listened, quietly, to my babbling about the paw and pad problems we had, and all the while I could tell he was thinking. Then the master went to work. Promising nothing, he said it would take at least overnight. We outlined Dixie's big, fat paws and then retraced it on some heavy-duty saddle skirt leather. From the beginning, he even said that anything he made would only last a couple of weeks at best on asphalt. I said anything we can get, we'll take. I stayed around as he cut the leather and then proceeded to soak it and work it into shape. As evening approached, Dixie and I headed toward the river. I noticed some empty houses dotting the shoreline, so we're spending the night on the porch of an empty house, listening to the roar of the water and enjoying the twinkling of the skies. Peaceful pondering. I've been thinking about what would be without all the time wasted because of the dilemma of Dixie's pads. Wasted, I wonder. One thing I learned long ago is that there's never just one way to look at a situation. I wonder how much further along the road we would be if it were not for all the delays. We'd probably be beyond Buena Vista and heading up to the pass. 2 or 3 weeks ago, which feels like a long time ago, I considered walking at a slower gait, not that I ever threaten any speed records, with the purpose of spending extra time in Colorado. Perhaps having been forced to slow down for Dixie's sake is the way that strategy has manifested. Usually, if there's no reason to stay someplace, or nothing of special interest, entertainment, or a rock face, or a volleyball game to stop us, we keep walking. We could be going through Colorado much too fast. Maybe Dixie's foot problems are a mixed blessing. It's a much more pleasant, perhaps cockeyed optimistic way to feel about this annoyance. The idea of working on a dude ranch has interested me since I reviewed Colorado tourist attraction pamphlets when I was living in Dodge City. I continue to think it could be lots of fun to work on one for a while. I have been hoping to find a dude ranch that needs help with their dudes. I'm good with people, horses, and camping out. All I need now is a dude ranch looking for temporary help and hopefully providing room and board. Or at least room. I have absolutely no idea if what I'm hoping for is realistic. What do I know about dude ranches? I have about 10 ranches listed, and it never hurts to ask. As Delmer Brady said, talk is cheap. He's right. And doing so worked out great for us in Kansas. June 25th, 1987, Thursday. Howard was finishing up the boots when Dixie and I came by this morning. The boots he created are of better quality than my own, and for only $25. Thick leather soles, mule skin uppers, sheepskin liners, and leather stitching. We tried them on for size. Dixie was confused, not surprisingly, and so were her paws. The boots are high top, so we found they also needed an extra harness that would attach the boots to the bottom strap of her backpack to keep the boots cinched up on her legs, to minimize the chance of them sliding off. She walked around a bit, with a strange gait at first, but she looked like she'd get the hang of it. In time. No guarantees, but time and effort well spent, we all agreed. And we went on our way. Mr. Murray is a master craftsman and a very nice man. A little later. As we headed out, Dixie, of course, is not especially thrilled about her new piece of equipment. That's another challenge. Dogs do not like shoes or boots or, well, her digits, which are also used to help her dig in and pull her along the road or the trail, no longer have that capability as they are enclosed in the boots. She swapped one disadvantage for another. But she is trying, and it's a heck of a try. And boy, does she look cute. I mean, I have never seen a more adorable creature than Dixie Doodles walking across America, pack on her back, and boots on her feet. Boy, I love this dog. You know, I have no doubt that we'll make it to Seattle. Moments like this make me realize how ridiculous some of my concerns are. Oh, we'll get there. Sooner or later. Later. Unfortunately, within a couple of miles, I've realized that there's no way Dixie could keep up with me walking with the boots on. And then she went through a puddle in the road and the boots became waterlogged, and then they just finally flopped off. I feel bad, especially for Dixie and Howard. I mean, Mr. Murray put a lot of time and effort into this prototype, but I think that using them regularly is just unrealistic. I'll save the boots when specifically needed, like when the road is really rough or if her pads become seriously raw. The last few days have been pretty easy on her pads and paws, and as the asphalt has been pretty smooth. She's actually doing pretty well on her own right now. I think the cooler weather also helps. Side note. As a reminder, dog boots were not common in the 1980s, not in pet stores or at veterinarians, and there was no Amazon.com, no Google reviews, and no Instagrammers to compare the best dog boots ever. Aside from inexperienced suggestions that some passersby had recommended, I had to rely solely on my own experience and wits. And that just meant a lot of trial and error. Sunday, June 28th, 1987. We have finally said adieu to Highway 50. At Salida, we hit Route 291 and headed to 285 North, and that turns into 24 North at Buena Vista, or Buny, as the locals call it. We went off route, west of Nathrop, a little bit, and headed towards Mount Princeton, where there are a couple of dude ranches. It doesn't hurt to ask, but in this case, it didn't help either. The people I talked to were nice, but they just didn't need us. So we headed on. There are some other places to call in Buny, and if nothing there, we'll head up to Twin Lakes, hang out for a day, and then head up over Independence Pass. Later. The valley opened up again. It's wide and has enough room for towns and for cows to graze and hay to grow in the fields. Colorado has over 50 peaks over 14,000 feet above sea level and doesn't hide that fact. I see some of them just a few miles to the left of us as we walked. And looking east, a bit to the right of us, are some baby mountains, varying between 8,000 and 12,000 feet. Only a few miles from Salida, and it's just so different than the previous miles going back to Canyon City. That's when the valley between the mountains was only large enough for the road, the river, the railroad tracks, one guy, and one dog. And that was it. Later. I called Mike and Karen. Mike is now working 6 days a week, teaching 5 days, and helping his dad selling clothing and coats at the flea market on Saturday. He also has to take education classes to get his teaching license. They just bought a new car. June 29th, 1987, Monday, west of Buena Vista, Colorado. I called the Elk Mount Ranch, went through my spiel, and got turned down. This morning was overcast and a light rain began to fall. We were hanging out in Buny and decided about 11 o'clock that it was time to get on and just stop waiting for the rains to stop. So, after 1,500 miles, we are walking in the rain for the first time. I mean, purposely. And it turns out it's real rain. Well, it is now. That's not a bad record, though, and I have no right to complain. So I'm not. I've just battened down our hatches and make the packs as watertight as possible. I've also had to put on my seldom used rain jacket and pants. Dixie just gets wet. Later. The romanticism of walking in the rain loses itself when you have to live in it. I love to go for walks in the rain, I used to say, and mean. Of course, that's when I had a warm house to go into and a hot chocolate nearby afterwards. Now, when I get wet, I stay wet until it's dry enough outside to get dry. Romanticism takes on a different meaning when reality rears its pretty little head. The point is, walking in the rain was fun for a while, but instead of my hopes of just ignoring the rain as it would soon clear up, the rain fell harder and harder, and walking in it is no longer fun. It became a downpour. I was cold. I couldn't lift my head up to see ahead without drowning my eyeballs, and my feet were soaking wet. Dixie telepathically said, "Why are we out here? In case you haven't noticed, this isn't fun. And I'm not wearing any rain gear." Dixie had begun to look like a drowned rat. So I fell back to one of my greatest and proudest talents, improvisation and scavenging. Buena Vista was a few miles back by this time, and, well, I just never go back. So I scanned the land for an answer to my dilemma. And there I found Sanctuary, a big yellow metal building with a sign showing Dave's Diesel Shop. And next to that, and right off the road, I noticed a small broken down house shack with some broken windows. I didn't see any people around anywhere, and so I just went in. This must be Dave's place too, because it is gutted of anything homey and full of engine stuff. So, at 12 noon, I pushed some stuff aside and created a space big enough for Dixie and me to sit, relax, and wait out the rain. So here we hang. I hope it won't be too long. Later. Thoughts from the shack. We are on our way to Independence Pass. We've hoped to find a dude ranch for fun, for rest, for adventure, for experience, and, well, just to break up the monotony of the daily walk. But so far, no takers. And there are no more dude ranches that I know of until after Aspen. So we'll just continue and see what is to be. I've been asking around, like I did when I wanted farm work, but nobody knows nothing. I've experienced this before, but it works out. At least it always has so far. Still, it is disappointing. I remind myself that we are on our way to Alaska, and if things don't stop us, then we'll get there sooner than expected or hoped. On this walk, I want and expect certain things to happen, but for some things, we'll just have to wait. We have to take things in stride. We don't have much choice. There's only so much I can control. Do what you can, don't just hope for things to happen, and expect the unexpected, even if the unexpected turns out to be a lot of nothing special. Later. We're still in the shack. Am I a wussy for not walking in the rain? I think not. Walking in the rain is not really fun after a while. It's wet, cold, bleak, and in your face. Me and my stuff get wet, and it takes time to dry. I have to continue to take advantage of finding this good place to shelter. Well, we'll walk when it's more pleasant. Hopefully, we won't have to wait much longer. I'm getting a little impatient. It's already been over 3 hours of just sitting in this greasy cubbyhole. Of course, Dixie doesn't seem to mind too much. She can be pretty patient. She's mostly just sleeping. And sometimes she's awake and relaxing and just looking out the door. I think she's happy not to walk in the rain. Later. Another thought. I now enjoy 20 to 25 mile stretches between towns. I carry plenty of food and walk more at our own leisure. I enjoy not worrying about having to get to a town for supplies or worrying about being too close to one to find camp as the night approaches. I found greater freedom through my security, confidence, experience, and abilities. These greatest stretches of road here in the West, distances I once feared, have become appreciated and desired. It's a real feeling of freedom. I feel like travelers 100 years ago must have felt when they packed extra supplies for the miles between the fewer towns. I feel like I have so much more of the planet to myself. What a change from the guy a year ago who dreaded towns separated by more than a half a day's walk to the next cafe or convenience store. I recently wrote a letter to Mike and Karen and wrote that most days, between sunup and sundown, we live 3 to 5 different days. Although sometimes days are similar, meaning we just walk most of the day, I still find that no 2 days are alike. Every day is different land, weather, people, towns, feelings, rests, naps, etc. What a contrast to those Dodge City Country Club days where I got up, worked the lunch shift, had 2 hours off, worked again at night, came home and watched TV, the news, reruns of sitcom Taxi, The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and The Late Show with David Letterman, then went to sleep, and then started it all over again. Just about every day. Later. We came to this greasy sanctuary at noon for what I thought was a short respite from the rain. But this isn't Louisiana or the plains, where the clouds purge themselves as they pass by. This is the mountains where the clouds get themselves hooked on a jagged peak and can't move on. They stay in one place and just keep dropping their load, and they move on only when they are good and ready. It's now 5 o'clock p.m., and it's hard to decide to walk in the rain and possibly not find any shelter. So I leave. Of course, if they close up shop, they may come and kick us out to lock it up. But so far, nobody knows we're here. I haven't seen any people at all. But no complaints. This is the only time we got caught in and delayed by the rain in 1,500 miles. So I sit, think, read, write, work on Dixie's boots, eat, and look out the window at the gray, wet, misty rain and fog. Maybe we will spend the night. Later. The rain stopped again at about 5:45, but the clouds are still here. We could stay or go, but now I don't feel like leaving and risking a wet night when I'm assured a comfortable, dry night. Outside, the overcast is lighter, and in the distance, the peaks are shining with new, clean, and pure white snow. We're at over 8,000 feet here, about 5,000 feet less than those mountaintops. By pushing aside engine stuff and cans of oil and grease, I've arranged a space for our bodies to lie horizontally. This is crazy, and what memories are made of. I think this is going to be our home for the night. This is a different, subtle memory of my walk across America. It's something I'll hold forever in my mind's eyes. I have slept with the cows, and in fields, and a cemetery, beside pure lakes and roaring rapids, and now in an old, broken-down shack with diesel junk strewn everywhere. One does what one has to do. As usual, I just make it up as I go along. So, tomorrow we'll wake up and with only a sleeping bag to pack, we can be on the road by 6:30 a.m., 23 miles to Twin Lakes and then on to Independence Pass. I've considered that I don't want to rush over the mountains because that represents the halfway point of sorts. In a strange way, it's the beginning of the end of the walk. It's a silly thought with still so far to go and so much to possibly happen. But the pass feels like a tangible obstacle to cross over and then be done with, as getting to the mountains becomes the past, not something to look ahead to. The Rockies have been a major goal from mile one, and within a few days, walking over the Continental Divide will be a goal accomplished, a part of my history, a memory. Goals are wonderful things, but reaching them signifies the end of something, and sometimes that's scary and or sad. There is a security in having a goal. But when that goal is reached, what then? Well, something new, of course, but new things can be intimidating. There's a lot of uncertainty. Insecurity wells up. I still experience that myself. Not as much as I used to, but it definitely still comes up. Of course, isn't uncertainty why very few people walk across countries or change jobs? or move out of the town they've been bitching about for decades? Of course, after we get to the top and over, I guess our new fun goal will be the Pacific Ocean. Sure, Alaska's the main goal, but it's fun and helpful to reach a goal that's a little bit more visible in the shorter term, too. I like to create goals of all sizes because when I reach even the little goals, like getting to the next town or sometimes even just the next telephone pole, because when I accomplish the little goals, I feel that much more confident in reaching the bigger ones. June 30th, 1987, Tuesday. It did rain last night. I made the right choice to stay put. I'm not a wussy. I'm smart. The fog is still here in the early morning, and it's hiding all 14,000 feet of the mountains. Now that's thick fog. I think Colorado, meaning color red, is a misnomer. I think it should be color bludo. Even in other parts of this state, I've been noticing shades of blue is what stands out. So often in the early morning and at sunset, the clouds take on a unique shade of blue or shades of blue. I remember that when we lived on the Great Plains, there were so many colors at sunset, but they didn't have the mountains to contend with. And the mountains, seen at a distance, have a bluish tint in their purple mountain's majesty. Of course, the sky on a clear day is an unpolluted sky blue, and I find that even the grass at the beginning and the end of many days have a blue tint. Oh, sure, the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, blood of Christ, have that redness at sunset, but still, the blues of this state are much more apparent. I think the namers of the Colorado did not spend enough time looking around the whole state before naming the state. Later, Dixie, in the spirit of her being, is full of energy. The last week we have taken it easy, and the coolness of the days has her once again flying without a care in the world. In fact, today we made 23 glorious miles to the shores of Twin Lakes today. That's the most we have walked in one day, at least so far, and here we'll camp and enjoy before heading up to the Continental Divide at 12,095 feet. Well, that's it for now. Thank you for listening to my sharing. Peace.